Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Green one, I got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was
Our downtown is.
We
should say that.
Yeah. It's yours now. Yeah. So I stepped off the board down here. I stepped in a board spring. It's rolled down the hill.
You went all that, you did all that work better mower and spring.
Oh,
You
yeah.
better not.
Well, I can't. More still running.
This conference will now be recorded.
You have to use this foot because.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, so I took it down and then I got those that one section of my hands. But
Yeah, be careful out there.
But yeah.
Yeah, you just do one pass and mower.
Yeah. Of course, I don't want to split that kind of money. My mower was like, and I thought it was like 6 or 7 pounds. This thing here. Of course, it's twice as big.
Yes, twice as big, yeah. You need a whole shed to store it.
Yeah, I've got it.
There's gotta be a secret.
Yeah, there's still, but it's, that whole bond one has a number of different bonds. One of them.
So what else have you done up to?
So that whole.
Just getting this property tax relief thing done.
Last year
Yeah,
was
it's
higher
good
than
stuff.
this.
I see something on our checks. Approved everything yesterday, so the checks went out. I'm taking a class right now. Going for my city manager's certification.
Oh.
So that's taking my time. Katie. Wrap that up. Or not, we done at the end of the
Yeah, you
year,
never-
or end of the year. The heavy part of it. I gotta write one more
Okay.
paper.
Okay, so it's just the bond.
So I'll do certification.
Excluded amount of exempting
I'm
items.
gonna lock myself in a room one Saturday and just crank it out.
75. So you're not, 20 mils that you pay, you're not paying it on the full value of the property, you're paying it on the full value less $75,000. And that's quite an increase from what it was years prior, so that portion of the tax bill is going to be a little bit.
As if this weren't all confusing.
Yeah, right.
How many charts of drafts are there?
We can have them all, it wouldn't do it. I mean, it's how many people gonna see, comprehend.
Well, I'm late.
We're late, Mayor.
It's 7:01. I'd like to call the, what day is this? The August 15th DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Tripp,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Hunter Michael,
Here.
McMoran, Lane,
Here.
Mayor, it appears Councilmember McMoran is absent.
Okay. I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item tonight is a public hearing relating to the issuance of $5,850,000 in industrial revenue bond, property tax abatement and sales tax exemption with Prairie Field Development Company, LLC. Any?
Yeah, Mayor, if you want just a quick introduction, what's in your packet is a memo from Jeff White that addresses the background from the application, the cost-benefit analysis, and the legal documents that would be considered later on the agenda. Just by way of reminding everybody that the applicant did come for this initial discussion in February. The council discussed this. The project consists of 20 duplex units near 85th and Kickapoo Street. At the time, the council was generally supportive of the application. We did revise one of those incentive district areas to include this in the meantime with our update that we did to the incentive policy. So that's been done. The focus of the discussion in February was the sensitivity to the school district. I've since had several conversations with the school district about this and about how we kind of quantify the impacts to the school districts from incentives like this. You know, we've had our spreadsheet with the school demographics. We didn't get anything, I don't think really anybody at the school district, superintendent or board of education was really in a position to give us any sort of a policy statement one way or another on this. So that's the background, and so now the applicant has come forward with this specific request for essentially an 80% tenure incentive. So Mayor, don't forget to open the public hearing.
I will. If you're done with your introduction, I'm going to officially open the public hearing. If you wish to come speak regarding this item, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and we'll take your comment. I'm not seeing anybody, so I'm going to close the public hearing. This item will be addressed under item 4C in the regular agenda. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
We'll move on. Consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approved the minutes from the August 1st City Council meeting, approved pay ordinance number 979, approved resolution 2046 allowing for the consumption of alcohol in the downtown district, and approved temporary use permit for Zip Trip filming. Is there any item anyone would wish to remove for further consideration? Or may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tripp.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Our next item is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? All right, I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on. Item 3A is a discussion of our draft strategic plan.
Yes, Council, you'll remember the last time we had a work session on this was back in May, toward the end of May of this year. Went through a draft version of the plan at that time with Shockey Consultants. Molly Saunders is here this evening to present what is the final draft of the plan to you for discussion. You're handing out the hard copies. This is an abbreviated version of the full, or is this the full version?
This is the full.
Very good. I've not seen this myself. It looks fantastic. So, Mayor, with your permission, I'll turn it over to Molly, and she's we'll step through it.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll take the rest.
Good evening. Thank you for taking time to go over the strategic plan. I'm Molly Saunders with Shockey Consulting. I was able to meet with you in May. We really kind of covered the sustainability section, and you'd reviewed sections previously, so this is the first chance to really go over the document together. And since it's been done over several workshops, I wanted to take time just to kind of take a step back on what the strategic plan is, how it will be used, and then I'll speak for a moment about what our next step is. So it's really exciting to do a strategic plan, especially when a community is in a period of transition and growth, to really make sure that you set the course for the future. And so during this planning process, it's been important to include the public along with the elected officials in the process. So there was an advisory group, community surveys, we had a workshop with the Planning Commission, and then we held several workshops with you. So there's been a lot of eyes on this process, and so what's presented to you today is a culmination of that. When we go out to seek any final public feedback, what we're really looking for is any major directional changes or ideas that may be incorporated into a future work plan. We're not looking for someone to tell us they don't like a certain word that's used. There are some people that don't like the word foster, I've heard. So we avoid that. So next slide, please. So as a reminder, this document contains a variety of levels of information. And your vision statement is one that's going to describe your future in aspirational terms. And so that sets the highest level of direction. And then you have your values that are the common virtues, the things that you think, this is the way that we do business, this is how we operate in DeSoto. Then we'll talk most specifically tonight about the goals, and just to go over those again, just so you can see them in one place and a reminder of what those are. And those are the long-term desired results. And I like to think of goals as things that have can endure a little bit of time, unlike the strategies and measures that are the other levels. Those may change over time, but your goals typically can stand a few years before they need to be revised. Next slide. So the vision is DeSoto is a growing, sustainable small town where families alongside global and local businesses thrive together because of excellent schools, vibrant neighborhoods, and abundant economic opportunities. So the future of DeSoto looks bright. Then I'd just really like to walk through some of the different elements. Again, you all have the document and have had it in your packet to read through. But as a reminder, these are the values that were defined that will be the guidance. As you're making decisions, these are the guideposts that you can use. If you have two equal proposals in front of you for action, going back to these values can sometimes clarify which one you wish to pursue. There are several sections within this. Your community section, we have a vision statement for each section. So again, it's saying what you want the inspirational future to be, and then it's broken down into parts. The vision for the community is a desirable, engaged, safe community with quality education, childcare, parks, and leisure opportunities for all. So with each of these, there are sets of goals, so the long-term desired outcomes that you wish to see that are consistent with the vision. So I also just want to kind of orient you to the document a little bit. What we like to do in our strategic plans is to provide some data and context. So at the start of each section, we pulled information that's related to this section. So the reader of this is intended to be something that someone can pick up and understand. Oh, this is what DeSoto is all about. I feel like I understand what this community has and what aspires to be. And so each section will have some information related to DeSoto data and statistics. The leisure, again, I don't necessarily want to read through every one of these unless you all want me to. Walk through each one in detail. I won't go through the data, but let's talk about any goals, and please stop me if you have any further comment or question about the goal. So the goal for leisure is increase local recreation and leisure option for community members.
I got a question.
Sure.
For you. I'll just probably back up
Of course.
slide, but, in our demographics, I don't know that you necessarily had it in the slide, it's in this part of the
Document? Uh-huh.
We don't list our Hispanic population in our mix, is that, I mean, we're listing ourselves as 97.1% white.
Mm-hmm.
Is that by design? Is that an oversight? Is there, can you?
Let me go back to, it's on page 8. And so on that, it is, there is no some other race. I can verify that if there.
I know we have a significant Hispanic population in the community, and I think it would be important that we recognize
Yeah.
that element in our.
Absolutely. Let me just double check. It's based on census data, and we pull the data from the American Community Survey. So let me just verify
Okay.
that there is not an oversight.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Something that I think is unique about DeSoto's plan is to acknowledge childcare as something in your strategic plan. We talk to a lot of communities about it. Elevating this to an item that's a priority for your community is, I think, something that stands apart from others. So increasing the quality of childcare options for working parents through partnerships. So there are a variety of strategies and methods. The strategies are included in the document. Those, again, will likely change over time, and we'll be working with staff to flesh those out on more specific actions. Education, maintain a highly educated workforce and a community of lifelong learners. So I said I wouldn't focus on the education or on the details, but the graduation rate in DeSoto is quite good. Public safety covers a number of aspects of safety, from crime to fires to ambulance to handling man-made and natural disasters. So the objective there is to ensure the safety of your community.
I have a question on
Sure.
that while you're on it. In the document under measures, it says 86% very satisfied or satisfied. Is that intended to be a target? That's the
Yeah.
current number?
That
Or
is
that
the
a specific percentage?
That is a target that was established in a workshop. It is something that sometimes people include their target in their measures, and others have their measures and targets separately.
Okay.
If you have a strong preference, we can alter.
No, I was just curious, 'cause some of the others will say increase.
Yes.
Percentage or establish a percentage, and this one had a specific.
Right. Okay, the next section is the built and natural environment. DeSoto's quality neighborhoods and places meet the needs of current and future generations. Oh, do we have another question?
Sorry, I was just referencing what Kevin had asked, Councilman Hanamichael had asked a question about, and it is currently 86 according to the survey.
Mm-hmm.
So is it actually a measure of maintaining in this case?
It is 86% would be the floor. That is how I would read it. If we want to maintain it or be better than, we can certainly reword it if needed.
Yeah, I think maintain or increase 86% satisfied or very satisfied. But just because when reading that, especially if you're not, where this is meant to be a publicly consumed document, I was like, oh, that's the target. I wonder where we are now. And it's like, oh, wait, we're already there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I would suggest, if you're okay with it, is just to change it to say maintain or increase feeling of public safety in DeSoto, and then have 86% as the target. I'll reword
Or
it.
like
Yeah.
86%
Or better.
baseline or
Yes.
yeah.
So we'll reference the baseline, but change it to be more broad. All right. Moving on to the built and natural environment, I talked about what the vision is, and then this is broken down into 6 separate categories. Next slide. Parks and open space. The goal is to maintain a quality, extensive park system. On connectivity and mobility, improve safe connectivity by creating direct paths between places for all modes of transportation. And again, we can kind of see through the graphic here and at the beginning of the section that DeSoto, like most communities in this area, are very heavily dependent on cars. So connecting pathways is one way for a community to make good progress. Housing. Housing is clearly something that's of growing importance in this area, and DeSoto in particular. So diversifying the quality housing stock that caters to many types of people at many points in life. So really being attentive to making sure that your community has housing for all. With infrastructure and facilities, sustain and enhance resilient facilities and infrastructure to improve our high quality of life and service delivery. Thoughts? No? Okay. And sustainability, which again was the last time we met, is talking about the sustainability and what the goals are, and that's to develop and redevelop the community while enhancing the environment. And again, there are lots of different strategies outlined in the document. And finally, with growth and development, encouraging development and redevelopment that maintains the character of DeSoto while accommodating new options, opportunities, and services for the community. So again, this is bridging what's valued by DeSoto today with what the future holds. Any questions about this particular section? Okay. And then the economic development strategy, there are 3 goals, and they're pretty straightforward: increasing prosperity of DeSoto residents, increasing the tax base and maintaining tax base diversity and resiliency, and finally, increasing the economic activity in DeSoto. So really, this is a pretty well-rounded plan for the community and the community's future. I'll you can let me know if there are any other questions or changes you have about the document. What we intend to do is, once you all have given feedback and we make any necessary changes, we will present this to the community through electronic means, and then also have QR codes with information about the strategic plan that people can access and provide feedback from their phones. Really, the intention is to bring back, the community has been involved in this, so it's always good to go back and say, here's what we heard, here's how we have incorporated it into our strategic plan. Do you have any comments or thoughts? Again, we're really looking for feedback that can guide us in the next steps of it, not necessarily editing specific words in the document. So it will be a very general questionnaire that's included for the public. What questions do you have?
What time frame are we looking at for the feedback and then rolling it out for public comment?
So we'll make the changes right after this meeting, and we will have materials prepared for public feedback, not next week, but the following week. And then I wanted to discuss with Mike when the final action, which would be accepting or approving the plan, what timeline you would like.
Yeah, we'll need to see how the
Feedback.
revisions go and see what kind of feedback we get.
Mhm.
I guess my interest would be if there's a feedback period, how long
Oh.
is the council? Yeah.
Okay, I would give it about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Things get stale, you know, after a fairly quick period of time where people are like, I saw the QR code, I would have done it the first time. The week
Yeah.
3 tends to
Okay.
decline, so
So we can look at sometime in October, maybe.
yeah, I would say early October would be a great time to come back.
Sounds good.
Just
Yeah,
a little one, but on page 30 where you have the retail sales,
Uh-huh.
that You should be able to get really at this point a year newer on the graph, 'cause this has 2022 data.
Okay,
Well, we'll be able to get almost 2 years newer on the data.
Okay.
So in terms of when this rolls out, it'd be nice to have that reflect
Mhm.
current conditions.
I just had a quick question. On page 31, the population below the poverty line, DeSoto is listed here twice. What are the difference in those columns represented there? They appear to be the same,
Mhm.
but
Oh, let me, thank you for pointing that out. I'll check. I believe what that should be is DeSoto, Johnson County, Kansas, and then national. So there might be a labeling error, but I will check.
thank you.
During one of the recent workshops, we talked a lot about prioritization.
Mhm.
Will that be rolled out at any point, either in concert with this document or a following step? Because as we discussed then, looking at this, it's a very robust document. We can't do all the things all at once.
Right.
So, also setting community expectations as well as guiding our next steps would be a nice piece of the puzzle to also have in place.
Right. And I think that this presents the full menu of options, and the next step would be to, again, after another round of feedback, and we can include even questions like of these, which is the top priority for you, in rank order, and then that could be part of your consideration of what your priorities are, that then would set in motion the staff piece of this is of what they are focusing on implementing.
Okay, so then when we get that public feedback, will you provide something that both looks at what the council direction was as well as public direction on prioritization?
So my understanding is you have not prioritized yet.
Didn't we do a workshop focused on prioritization?
Because the,
Okay, thank you.
what's that?
Yeah,
With the stickers.
with the stickers and the. and
That was for
prioritize.
the sustainability piece. Oh.
No, it was
It
for
was,
everything.
yep. My mistake. This is one of the complications of the baton being, yes,
Yeah, I just
you did
remember doing the work
prioritize.
In the
So,
workshop, doing the
yes.
prioritization work, and I just didn't see that
Yeah,
reflected.
and so, actually, thank you for the reminder. We'll use that and then compare that to the public feedback, and then you can do any final adjustments.
Prioritization will be applied to the capital improvement plan.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah, work plan and
Yes.
consensus priorities, everything.
Everything. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I just didn't want to
Yes.
lose that work that we had done on prioritization.
right.
Especially, again, it's such a robust document. I don't want to see us get mired in,
Yes, I don't want to lose that either since you've completed that work.
And then one of the other items we had discussed, I think perhaps at that same workshop, was particularly re-engaging the committee of community members. who
The
had-
advisory committee.
Mhm. Have they already been engaged, or if not, I'd like to request that that they get a little additional engagement than just the general public rollout. Because they were so crucial in forming this document. I want them to feel like their work is appreciated and recognized and part of this, versus just seeing kind of a general survey go out online and
Of
feel
course.
like,
Right, where they get
I'm just another community.
They get a special
member.
preview of
Yeah,
it with
I think that
a
would be
link.
really important.
Sure.
Anyone else? So I guess if we have any other comments, we'll certainly
Please
share
just
them.
send them to me and Mike and Brandon. I will be in touch with you about schedules.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4A, consider agreement with Johnson County Cars for the Lexington Avenue project.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. So part of the funding for Lexington Avenue, I think the city share was $4 million, with $2 million coming from Johnson County Cars program. Back in October of 2022, we approved the first agreement, which is the amount of $928,000. So this agreement makes us whole with bringing it up to $2 million. What will happen is once KDOT's done with the work and they go through their financial due diligence, they will send us a bill. At that time, we will make the request to CARS for our total $2 million to be reimbursed. So this agreement is to take that funding to the $2 million that was agreed upon.
All right, any questions for Joe on this Cars agreement? Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with Johnson County, authorizing the mayor to sign, providing CARS funding to the Lexington Avenue reconstruction project.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item 4B, discuss economic incentive application from Wheatland Investments for multifamily residential project at Clearview.
Yes, council, this is in accordance with our economic incentive policy. The initial discussion, initial presentation from the application. We did get an application from Wheatland Investments for a major rehab project at Clearview Village. The request is for an RHID, which is something we've been discussing the last several months. Akin to a TIF incentive, but for residential. We did work that into our policy documents. And so, again, as a reminder, this is presented tonight without any cost-benefit analysis, without any recommendations from staff, just an opportunity for the council to give staff and the applicant feedback on the merits of the request. So, Mayor, with that, with your permission, I'd like to invite Wheatland Investment, whoever is going to do the presentation, to come up and introduce themselves and to talk about the project.
Well, Mayor, council, and staff, thank you for inviting us tonight, and we're glad to share our vision of what we have planned. I have with me Susie Rhodes. I think online there's Devin and Kelsey as well. We're a family-owned business, Wheatland Investment. We've been doing this for 30, 40 years. What I'd really like to do is scan down to, I think it's page 11.
Yeah.
This is Wheatland Investment. We actually develop property in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Everybody thinks maybe Clearview City is the only thing we own, and it's not. We bought this actually 30 days after 9/11 on October 11th, 2001. Wasn't sure we were going to get it insured at the time because Lloyd's of London was kind of putting everything on hold at that time. But we feel that, and if you want to roll through this slides, this is Gardner, Kansas. We did 300 units there and 24 houses, single-family houses. They're 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage houses that wrap Gardner, Kansas. Lawrence, Kansas, if you go in on 23rd Street, and if you just pass Trailer Tractor Supply, you look to your left, you'll see that project in Lawrence, Kansas. Wanted to show you a couple of interior pictures, and then there's a slide that shows some properties that we have in Midwest City, which is just on the north side of Oklahoma City. Newcastle is kind of on the south side of Oklahoma City. And just to kind of give you a flavor, we do a lot of single level, not 2- and 3-story apartments. So Clearview City is kind of something in our wheelhouse that we think we can rehab and develop. The reason that we're in here requesting the city's approval of an RHID, we feel like we need to improve the infrastructure under the ground before we do all this improvement above ground. These pipes, sewer lines, water lines, 85 years old. We're constantly maintaining them. The Rural Housing Incentive District will allow us to use the additional tax increment to repay a portion of that expense to improve those infrastructure. Our intent is to improve everything: streets, sewers, water lines, inside and out apartments. In 2014, we put this on the National Register of Historic Places, so it has a historic designation with the National Park Service. And the ingredients that we're trying to put together, we applied through KHRC for tax credits. We have been approved. We have approval for federal and state tax credits through the Historic Society. We've had numerous meetings with them about this rehab, and if you can imagine, we have to do things like matching windows and doors, and there's things you can and cannot do, and we have guidance from them. And we feel like with Panasonic across the street from our facility and our community that it is a perfect opportunity to bring workforce housing, and it would be a major workforce housing, 341 units in DeSoto, Kansas. And that is basically my pitch. There's some great pictures in here if you want to look at some of the old exterior interiors, but we need the RHID to be one of our sources to complete our overall funding package. It's important that we have as many sources as we can. Those are the old coal bins and trash collection. All these units originally were run by coal. And the one on the right, there's kind of nice floating shelves, which we may bring back some floating shelves rather than just cabinets. So I know this is an informational thing, and you guys have not made any recommendations staff-wise, and I know that we're going to be back. We are deep into engineering, architect, and we plan to be here back in front of the Planning Commission and the City Council within the next 2 to 3 months. With that, I appreciate the opportunity to make a presentation, and if you have any questions at some point, reach out to me.
Dave, have you initiated conversations yet with the school district?
Yes, we actually have a meeting September 9th. We're making a presentation to the school board. We've also notified all of our residents of what we're doing in a letter. We're setting up a neighborhood meeting so that we can also notify anybody in the neighborhood exactly what we're doing. You know, there's all kinds of rumors that fly around about what's going on in Clearview, and we want to kind of dispel that by doing it up front and telling people before a public announcement like this.
I understand, like, using these credits, it limits what you can do with rents post remodel. Is that correct? Can you elaborate on that?
It just keeps everything affordable. You know, it's not market rate rents. You're not, you know, in the market rate. You're meeting a niche that is an affordable housing product.
Questions over, Courtney, it looked like you had a question.
Several.
Just waiting for my turn. No, I was wondering, and it may be too early in the process to know, but the process for current residents as this project goes on.
We have spent hours on logistically coordinating what we're going to do with residents that currently live there, on whether we're doing phases, how many units are we going to do in a phase, how we're going to relocate them. All those things are in the process of being logistically planned.
Okay.
The intent is, though, to relocate on-site. Well, they may have to move several times, but you'll move them out of a unit into.
Hopefully, they'll only have to move once.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our intent is to try to use the buildings that you, if you've been through there, that are boarded up, use those buildings, rehab those, move people into there either temporarily or permanently, and move them back to their unit. But those logistics are very complicated.
I'm sure. In terms of, you know, and I know that there's an affordability component baked in here, but in terms of the current residents, I know that for those residents, even a small change in rent can be significantly impactful. Have you kind of been able to look at what that's going to look like for residents, kind of the before and after?
I would say it's too premature for us to say what the rents will end up being, but we know that the state agency has a cap on what rents can be less utilities, so we have to stay within those guidelines.
And then there was in the kind of details of the document, there's a request for a 35% less rate for water, and will that be passed on to the residents, or what is the intent with that
To keep
component?
to keep it affordable.
Perfect. Just wanted to
Lowering
confirm that
lowering
would be
expenses allows not to have to charge so much on rent, therefore it keeps it affordable.
Thank you.
And these will be all individual meters when you get done, or this will be a single meter for the complex as it is now?
We are figuring that out, Rob. That's a lot of meters. But it may be a meter per building. But it has not been decided yet.
And on the rehab, how much of it remains the existing building as far as,
We can't remove buildings. We have to.
no, I'm not saying remove buildings, but are you taking it down to the studs and taking it back up? I mean, how much of a full rehab is it gonna be?
We're gonna do everything. The buildings currently are cinder block
Cinder block
With-
with vermiculite.
with trusses on top. And so we are keeping the cinder block and gonna rebuild everything inside and out.
So how are you going to make these things more, should I say, energy efficient? Because the cinder block with vermiculite, which I lived out there, so this is what I know. So I lived in one of those units. So I just want to know your plans on what you're going to do. I know you can't tear down that brick and the cinder blocks and do that. What is your intention on maybe upgrading anything, or since you're revamping and redoing, how are you doing that?
We are working with our architect, with our MEP, to try to solve that equation, because we want to be as energy efficient as we can. But when you're dealing with a product like block, it makes it difficult. So we are working weekly with them to come up with a solution.
And then I was curious to hear a little bit more about the name, and if you have gotten any feedback or reaction from
Originally it was.
resident engagement yet. I just know there's a lot of history there, of course.
And that's the whole purpose of rehabbing this. We want to maintain that history. We think this is a national historic site that should be maintained. Sunflower Village was the original name, or Sunflower Village District, and I think there was 4 owners. There was a guy in Oklahoma that purchased the property, and then there was a guy named Hanson that purchased the property. Hanson actually died in the Skywalk collapse. He then sold it to Jim Bush, and Jim Bush sold it to Clearview Village Inc., which is our company. So we want to maintain that history. We would love for that to be preserved. And we think there's a desperate need for this type of housing, especially with Panasonic.
The old school buildings and the old grocery store and that, can you tell me a little bit about those units there, that up at the front, the forefront, that used to be where the shopping took place and where the post office was, et cetera? Okay, and what are going to happen to those buildings and the school? No, I'm not talking about the pink school way down the deal, but I'm talking about the school which was called Staff Village School at that time.
The commercial building up front is not in this part of the rehab.
Okay.
We've carved that out, and we have not determined exactly what we're going to do with it. The corner of that was an old Walgreens drugstore, and then you had Wyman's grocery on the other end. You had a dairy. You also had a beauty salon, and I think you had a U.S. Post Office. And when the post office condensed all their small satellite units, they closed that. And just for a comment, I fought the post office for 2 years because I did not want them to remove those boxes, because they were brass with beveled glass. They were beautiful. And I wanted that preserved for the historic, and that's probably one of the incentives why we wanted to get it on the National Register so that we could, maintain and keep those things for historic. So,
And staff school?
staff school, I don't think's there anymore.
Okay, yes, it's still there. It's right at the other end of the block there. The school that's the building right,
That's our leasing office.
okay. Okay,
Okay,
that
that-
used to be the staff school.
That's
Okay,
that
and
is the
what are your
current.
plans for that?
Remodel it, fix it up, have it available for community use,
Okay,
residents,
resident use?
resident usage, not public usage.
Were you talking about having a common space that had internet provided for students and things
Yes,
like that?
yes, kind of a business center and a hub for kids to go if they need to.
Because I was with you when you were talking with Dr. Gibson about that. And
Correct.
the fact that he actually liked the idea because they could send tutors out to that facility to aid with.
We actually, if you guys have ever been in there, we have about a 5,000 book library in there
Okay.
that has some old copyrights.
While it's up, curiosity, what's that one building housing unit that looks like it's carved out of the rehab on Sunflower Road there?
Is that performance glass?
No, this one or this here.
Oh, that's the old telephone building.
Okay.
It's
It
the old
used to house
telephone.
batteries and a relay station going on into Lawrence
Yeah,
County.
it's just,
Is that
we're not making
part of
that,
your- what you own there as well?
Yes.
or- Okay,
yeah, we're just,
just wasn't one of the buildings.
yeah, we just didn't include it in the district.
Okay, so I guess the question before us, is, do we support redevelopment at Clearview to extend this to go forward for further
Yeah, so
discussion?
specifically for this evening, it would be a part of the request that includes the RHID, it's 100%. It's, the term on the RHID that you're requesting is 25 years.
Correct.
So that's really, that's kind of the base of the discussion this evening. We'd love to talk about, the planning and the infrastructure and all that, and that's all obviously
So
good information to have.
on
But
that,
it's the RHID. We'd like some direction.
so on that, another question for Mr. Rhodes. The RHID being like a TIF is setting aside the increase in value over what you're already paying. So some clarity, just, I've heard you say it, so I'm just kind of giving a chance for it to be heard publicly. In a situation like Sunflower, where we did the Panasonic TIF, and the TIFs like that, the value of taxes paid on that property for like all of Sunflower was $6,000 for all of the acreage because there's nothing there useful. That's not the case with Clearview because you are paying residential or taxes on the units that are already in place to where the increment is going to be less than if it was a green or brownfield development, correct?
Correct. If we were coming out of the ground, it would be minimal tax that we would continue to pay. We're currently paying 85,000 or so a year in taxes that we will continue to pay during that 25-year period. It's just the 100% above that we want to use for the RHID repayment of the infrastructure improvements that we so desperately need. Because there's no reason to build everything above the ground if you've got junk underneath the ground, and that's the bottom line.
But that was the point I was wanting to
Right.
have you make and make as well, is that it's not from a very, very minimal amount to a larger amount that's being set aside, but it's from a partial decent tax base already that will continue, and it's a set aside of the improvements above and beyond a decent tax base that's already there.
Correct. And I don't mean it's junk underground, we maintain it.
Okay. I think the RHID question, we have to answer it, but it's also pending on other agencies to consider as well.
For what it's worth, Mayor, we've talked to the Department of Commerce. We have support at the Department of Commerce. We've reached out to the Johnson County Commission. We hope the school district will be. So we are trying to reach out to everybody involved in the decision process. Well, we would really like the opportunity to rehab this place rather than have it not.
I think, from my perspective, given that there is a tax that's already there that makes it much more, well, I think it makes the RHID or a TIF make a whole lot more sense, because you're not necessarily giving up, tax. And without this, this perfectly, I think, meets the but-for, right? If we did not do this, obviously, it's not happened, or it probably already would have happened. If there was a way to do this without this incentive, then likely it would have already happened by now. It'd be underway right now, right? As soon as Panasonic broke ground, we need to get this done, right? So I think it obviously, in my mind, it obviously meets the but-for. It's an area that it's a product in the area, in the city, in the county, in the region that is desperately needed. Those additional units are needed in our housing stock. I'm certainly supporting moving this on to the next step. And I would invite comments from the rest of you to indicate your preference.
I'm very favorable towards it. I know we're gonna have multiple RHIDs coming before us. I know that we like to be consistent, but this is one that I would also say is a but-for, in that it is different than any of the other ones that are coming before us. It's like your homeowner's insurance. When you go in and get it estimated, it's based upon the rebuild value, not the actual build value, which actually ends up being more expensive than building from ground zero. The infrastructure that's got to be going in here is going to be working around and through existing structures that can't be torn down.
Correct.
And so at that point, you've got some factors in here that make this unique in how the funding and what funding is needed for it. The other thing is, when Panasonic was happening and people were asking lots of questions about Panasonic, there were always two questions. The first question was, what's going on with Panasonic? What about Panasonic? The second question was, what's happening with Clearview City? And so, while it's on the National Historic Registry, it's also on the minds of most of our residents going, something needs to happen with it. Some of them think it's bulldoze. That's not going to happen, but if we can get it rehabbed and back to functional and usable and affordable, then that does meet a need that we haven't seen met.
Yeah, Clearview currently houses 8 to 9% of the population of DeSoto.
And if all the units are in place, that becomes
Yes.
more.
I'm also supportive of this moving forward. I see this as meeting a tremendous community need, and my biggest concern was making sure that there was thought going into the current residents there and making sure that there's, continuity for them both during and after the project. But I think it would be very important for our community to move this forward in a way that pays tribute to the roots while serving the growing need for affordable housing, and of course pending the other partners that need to be involved for an RHID. I would definitely be supportive of this.
Yeah, I'm supportive. We've been working the RHID process. This is totally applicable. This area's been on our incentive policy for a long time. I think one of the, unrelated to the incentive request in itself, then obviously we've got to figure out the situation with what's the long-term ownership and maintenance associated with the horizontal infrastructure that's going to get rebuilt. That's probably a topic for discussion as well. That's step next. So I'm in.
Yeah.
Danny?
Yeah, this would be the only HRID project that I would be in favor of right now. The others, and I would also like to hear more from the school district, their thoughts after you meet with them. And, yes, I would be in favor of that process. So, I know it's in the historical value of that out there, and I know that you're gonna have a lot of challenges.
Yes, sir.
And I hope you the best of luck with it.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Where did you live?
Huh?
What was the address you
I
lived?
lived at Lane P, Sunflower.
Oh, great. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, council. Yeah, I think, so the next steps are, there's a few of them that we've never done before. So with RHID, it requires a housing needs analysis be completed. The applicant has actually already done one specific to this project, but the county a couple years ago did a county-wide housing needs analysis. There's a whole chapter on DeSoto. There's a chance we could submit that to the Department of Commerce and kind of cover the whole city for the future ones that are coming up. We're working with Jeff about that. So that's a little added step. Obviously, we have the the cost benefit analysis, I assume, that will be involved. We have the initial look at the financing behind it, the regular stuff that we normally will engage there. There's also all this other planning activity, like you mentioned, about what's the long-term ownership of the infrastructure. Is there any platting, any zoning change, but things of that nature that we will start on now. And I know your timeline. You want to be built next spring, right? So not a moment too soon. Okay.
All right, thank you. Item 4C, consider resolution 2047 expressing intent of city to issue IRB's tax abatement and pilot agreement for Prairie Field Development Company LLC.
Yes, council, you've done these resolutions on several different projects. This is resolution 2047. I didn't see a copy in my paper packet. I don't know if it's on the...
It is on the digital.
Okay.
Did not make the paper.
Gotcha. So it is for 80% abatement. By approving the resolution, you'll also be approving the pilot agreement, which simply sets the rate at 80%. Jeff is here. I don't know that Kevin's online too, if you have any questions for them. But again, this does not affect the city's credit rating, and the city's not at risk if the project were not to come to fruition.
Okay. We last talked about this 3 months ago or so?
It was in February.
February,
Yeah.
okay, just yesterday. My recollection, well, I think we were all pretty supportive. It's an infill, providing a needed product in the community. We had, as Mike mentioned in the lead up to the public hearing, we're concerned about impacts on the school district. We've had those conversations. I don't know, Mike, so I guess I would invite anybody that had any questions or needed an answer. The applicant's here. If you have any questions, you could get those, or Jeff and the cost-benefit analysis that was presented, so.
I had a question on the sheet that has the summary of costs and benefits on it. So, yeah, that one up in the upper right corner where it kind of gives a description. It says each duplex will have 6 bedrooms and 2.5 baths, 2-car garage. Should that be? I assume that's 6 bedrooms across the duplex units, so 2 3-bedroom units. And if that's the case, isn't it 2 times 2.5 baths and 2 times 2-car garages?
Maybe that's these are 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage units.
Each side.
Not 6-bedroom, 2.5 bath. They're 6-bedroom, 5-bathroom.
Okay, if we're talking about a door, there are 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and 2-car garage. There are 20 doors.
20 doors.
Actually, that's not even true. There are 3 because of grade that'll be a walkout basement on. So there's a few additional bedrooms on those three.
That's on you.
2, 10, 20,
All right.
Doesn't change the analysis, I assume.
whatever.
Just a little clarity on the description as I was reading through it.
Okay.
I probably wrote it wrong. Jeff did it correctly.
Oh, way to fall on your sword.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2047, determining the intent of the city of DeSoto, Kansas to issue its industrial revenue bonds in the aggregate amount not to exceed $5,850,000 to finance the cost of acquiring, constructing, and equipping a commercial multifamily project for the benefit of Prairie Field Development Company LLC or successors and assigns.
And I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Blaine.
Yes.
Monaco.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Tripp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item D, consider amendment number 2 with HDR for the construction phase services at the water plant.
Yep, Mayor, thank you for this. So back in December of '23, we came back with an amendment to the original design contract for the water treatment plant to amend HDR's contract for construction phase services. During then, we had talked about that this is going to be broke up into 3 different amendments. So this is the second amendment to carry their work through probably February of 2025. And so on the second page, kind of has their breakout of the original design contract of $3.45 million. We had an original amendment of $1.48 million. And tonight's request is for amendment 2 for $1.78 million. And then potentially a third amendment later next year that would take us through commissioning and probably through the end of 2025 and early part of 26 for commissioning. We have Charlie Seaver tonight here with HDR if there's any specific questions to their scope and the work that they're doing. But kind of basically they're on site inspecting the construction work with all the work that's going on. They have 2 on-site inspectors in addition to engineering review, RFIs, design changes, and then working with Garney to accelerate the construction to meet the needs for Panasonic. And I'm here to answer any questions, and I'm sure Charlie will be here to answer your questions.
All right, any questions from council?
And again, this is part of the amendment that we have with Panasonic as far as the cost. I should have clued that in there, so I wanted to make sure.
Second.
Read your mind.
Okay.
All right. I make a motion to approve Amendment 2 in the amount of $1,781,680 and authorize the city administrator to sign.
Second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tripp.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Monaco.
Yes.
Blaine.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item E, budget discussion.
Yes, council, another step in our budget formulation process tonight. I've given you draft documents of the full budget before. Those did not include several things like the specific budget worksheets for each line item in each department. Those are included in this version, but we've still got a ways to go on some of those. We're not happy with exactly happy with the formatting, and we've still been reconciling some of the stuff in our new budget software with my projection spreadsheets and the state budget forms that we use to really, it's kind of a triple check to sort of reconcile everything. With the new system, we're still working the last bugs of that out. So the version you have is still in draft form. There will be some modifications to that as we move forward. But the main thing for this evening we need to do is approve the publication for the budget hearing that will occur on September 19th. And so there's the final 2 forms in your packet are those those budget forms is the notice of budget hearing and revenue neutral rate hearing. I see you scrolling, I'm sorry. It's several hundred pages long. I've got it up on the screen now. And then the certificate of publication that we will have to actually submit to the county. So the notice of hearing does indicate that the proposed tax rate for DeSoto for 2025 is 13.78. That's 13.78 mils. That is the revenue neutral rate mills that we receive from the county. So indeed, we're able to, with the budget we have formulated, meet that revenue neutral rate as we always had intended from the beginning. So the action I need is for you to approve that budget hearing notice so we can do that and get that noticed up for September 19th. A couple of just notes that I wanted to note. I don't know that I'll step through the document at all, but we did have a few changes to this version that from what you've seen in the past. Where's my budget? I have them all here. Okay. So we did have a discussion about road maintenance, the annual road maintenance program. I think in the previous version I had $500,000 and we talked about increasing that. The 25 budget has $1 million in that. And then subsequent projections, I have had to knock that down to $750,000. But that's not set in stone, so for 26 we can consider moving that forward as we get revenue projections in and see where the 25 budget, the one we're looking at this evening, has $1 million for that. The other thing, we do have a reminder, I guess, that we have transfers now for the TIF revenues we're going to receive from Panasonic to come into the general fund and go straight out into the TIF funds. So for 2025, that amount is about $340,000 in total between the general law and debt service funds. We're going to be getting those revenues. They have to be transferred out to the TIF fund for use for project expenses. So you'll see those as additional transfers. We also have similar TIF projects for HARPS specifically. There's a sales tax and property tax TIF for HARPS, and there's one for Commerce Drive that we did just before we did HARPS. So we'll have similar transfers for those two out into those funds that you hadn't seen in previous years. So that's how we're handling that. So in our messaging, in our valiant efforts to try and message the revenue neutral rate and how it affects people's property taxes and whether they'll be paying more or less and how much savings to get in the fog of all that, what we really shouldn't lose sight of is that when we meet the revenue neutral rate, we're going to collect as much tax next year as we do this, right? So if everything remains stagnant and nobody's property valuations went up and there wasn't any new growth in the city, the mill rate would be the same and we collect all the same amount of taxes. Well, we know the valuations went up and we know there was a lot of growth in the city. So because the valuations went up, we know that we know the mill levy would have to decrease. But we had $25 million in assessed valuation added because of the partly constructed Panasonic project. Even though we're taking that money and putting it even still, we've got the revenue neutral rate. That is really the pot of money, more or less, that we are giving back to the rest of the taxpayers. We're distributing that among all the other taxpayers in town to the tune of about an average of $180, you know, for the average single resident. So that's a part of this whole thing that I think kind of might get lost. You know, what you're distributing is that increased growth, and the vast amount of ours was Panasonic last year. It'll be the same next year. It'll be more. Yeah, it'll be bigger, which is why I don't anticipate it's going to be very difficult for us. It might be hard for us to meet the revenue neutral rate next year. You know, we might not be able to meet that specific rate because that valuation is going to go up so much. So we'll just see where they fall.
So the Panasonic valuation, is it partial or is it complete at this point?
Partial.
So it's a partial valuation, so that number is going, when they complete it, it's going to be even higher.
Triple or quadruple at least, yeah.
In here and in our messaging, we've been careful to let people know that, you know, the reality is it would be even harder to meet revenue neutral rate next year because of the increased valuation, et cetera.
Yeah.
But saying that does not mean that we are going to raise taxes.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's, important clarification that even if next year we're looking at not meeting revenue neutral rate, that doesn't necessarily mean we're looking at a tax increase next year. It's the difference between revenue neutral rate and real dollars and cents in people's pockets, and
That's
I think
right.
that's,
Yeah. I don't know that the legislators foresaw a situation like ours. Because the intent is that does equate to real dollars. I think that's the legislative intent. That revenue, that means dollars. People pay their taxes in dollars. But very good point. Even though we might not meet the rate that we think might be relatively arbitrary, you may still get a reduction in your tax from the city.
or even just
Level, yeah.
or even just keep the taxes the same as
Right.
the previous year, which, we're looking at such a significant tax reduction this year that, to be able to maintain that over the course of next year and kind of related to that, the other thing I wanted to kind of just highlight or click on in the budget, we're still being quite conservative with our estimates looking out into the future of some of these
Yeah.
non-residential revenues.
That's correct. I think, of course, sales tax is going nuts, right? We know that. We think that's partly because of, we know that it's because of the construction going on. That may take a step back next year, but the projection for sales tax is still well below any of this boom that we've had. And same with franchise revenues. The other thing that enabled us to do this year is money we've already received. We've already got, this isn't a projection we're banking on for next year. These are monies we have now, we've already collected. So that's another kind of security, I guess, that's kind of built in.
Does interest income also tail off as well, but I don't know how much that's an impact.
Well, yeah, that interest, a lot of that, we've gotten about half of it now that we expect that we would get, maybe a little bit more. About $2 million that we've received so far.
But as it gets spent down, then you don't have the.
Yeah, then it'll tail off.
Yeah, it'll tail off.
Yeah.
So there's a scenario where Panasonic valuation doubles or triples when they complete the building.
Or more.
Or more. At which point, that taxation at 25% potentially means that our residents still could see no increase or even reduction by the offset of how much is there.
Yeah.
And if other things start happening, like Flint develops more or things like that, that's only going to increase that.
Correct. Yeah.
And then,
so. Go ahead.
No, finish that one. I've got something else.
Yeah, the revenue neutral rate really is getting at the mills, right? And so that number for us is artificially low because we've got Panasonic that's a 25. Well, partial valuation was $100 million, assessed at 25%.
But if we exceed revenue neutral next year, because of the valuation of Panasonic going to full valuation, that still means the residential is offset by the commercial.
Yeah, it won't change that scenario. Yeah. But the revenue neutral mill is going to be far lower.
Yeah,
because it's going to be a whole lot bigger.
Yeah, and we're not getting any of that, right?
Yeah.
That's all flip. So it's a different sort of scenario.
4 times the revenue neutral rate.
Hard enough to explain. Yeah.
Another comment on the sales tax revenue is we get more in play, whether it be Leo's Kitchen, Burnt Ends, Domino's, Jimmy John's, nail salons. We're going to have more places for the Panasonic employees and our residents to be spending tax money in town, thus potentially adding to those revenues as well.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep. If you like spreadsheets, it's a real interesting time. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
I'll just say thank you to Whitney and the entire team for continued efforts to sort this out for our residents, because it is a scenario that exists outside of how the legislation, I would assume, was intended. And so it's creating a very confusing situation where, you know, residents are a bit confused. And I think, you know, what I've emphasized is
confused.
it took me, yes. But I mean, in one-on-one conversations that I'm having, I think, you know, I just keep trying to boil it down. Dollars and cents, this is going to mean that for the average homeowner, the city is collecting, you know, $180 less taxes from you. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, an important takeaway, and I think that's something that, especially as we get further down this process, and eventually when people see things in concrete numbers, that'll be very resonant.
And then there's the additional level of confusion by the other taxing entities.
In our own, you know, we made a conservative play and we hedged our bets and we said we might, you know, not be able to meet revenue neutral. So there was another confusing bit of information.
Yeah.
Well, what really is going to happen? Well, we think it's going to be this. And now we know, right? We published this and this is what it's going to be. So we will be meeting revenue neutral. We will be, everyone will be seeing a significant savings in their city tax bill this year. And hopefully we'll offset any of those increases from any other taxing entity in the county.
Well, and the one other point, I mean, to the conversation about the roads maintenance budget and so many other things in this budget, you know, one person I said, here's the good news, and they said, so what are the services you're cutting? And I said, no, we're increasing services.
Yeah.
We're increasing road maintenance. We're, you know, continuing to increase the, you know, coverage from the sheriff's department.
Capital improvements, yeah.
Capital improvements are increasing, so it is really that double good news that a municipality only hopes to be able to give.
Question on the form. The certificate says, does budget require a resolution to exceed revenue neutral? It says yes, but we're gonna be revenue neutral. Is that because we noticed to the county already that we were gonna have a hearing?
It's the very last.
That there, that should not say yes.
It is, so I actually emailed the state about that because I had a question about it. I have not heard back. The state presents that form. Since we're meeting it, it should have gone away. But you get these weird little kinks on the spreadsheet.
This is an automatically
Yeah.
populated
Yeah.
field.
Yeah,
in the
so
spreadsheet.
yeah, so when you type in a number, and Bonnie can go into this a little bit deeper. You'll type in a number, and if you make a mistake, the whole spreadsheet will light up like a Christmas tree. And so I had sent the state an email and basically said, hey, we're actually meeting it to the T. I don't know why we'd need to exceed it. And I have not heard back from them. But I was out of the office for a couple of days, so I may have missed something.
7999999.
Yeah, so I have not heard back, but before we publish, which we'll publish at the end of this month,
It could be
we'll
rounding.
make, yeah.
It
Very
could
well
be around,
rounding,
yeah,
but
it's just after the 1000th
Yeah, it's
place.
several places out beyond where we see there.
Yeah, that's a good catch, Rob. I caught that last Friday, and I
Yeah,
still haven't heard anything
noticed that.
back.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rob. I was gonna mention that. I will lay it on. So we
Okay.
need to,
Do we need a motion to publish?
Motion to approve the notice of hearing.
There we
Yeah, that's attached to the staff.
I'll make a motion that we approve the notice of hearing.
I'll second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hannemeyer.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good.
All right. Executive session. Tonight, we're gonna have two items. First item we're gonna deal with is a land acquisition item.
I'll make a motion, we recess into executive session at 8:17 for 5 minutes to discuss acquisition of easements for 95th Street Sewer Line Project pursuant to the land acquisition exemption provided by KSA 754319 B6, with the open meeting resuming in the council chambers at 8:22.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right,
And I put an email on your places.
So then you take care of the plant that was with that transformer.
Yeah.
Wired things together, and apparently they tightened up quite enough, so that's why it's.
Oh, is that what they do? Okay.
Yeah, and then the first guy that came, because when I called Duncan, Terry called me, he said he was sending a troubleshooting crew on home. So that was good. Some of them they showed up first. And Terry just said he was kind of watching this full-time meter, was kind of all over the place. And he showed your batteries. Well, I think so.
I think that was the guy from Evergreen.
Yeah.
He came out of Lawrence.
Yeah.
So they had the city Baldwin out there.
Yeah, so they came over and they figured it out, so, yeah, all's good.
Oh, has it? Okay.
Alrighty.
Yep. Well, you must have been discussing.
I'm surprised how old he is. I would never. You're 17. Not public study. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's. Second half of the presidential election. Doesn't matter. Next week after, about one, and then nothing until the second. I don't know, I am kind of curious how over there things have because there's still an office. Overturned offices all there all this time. People want to return to offices. Yeah. In corporate business. Is limited. Now the buildings are limited. Yeah. But they're 87%. Nobody's there. And then, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's a little bit better. Friday's low. Yeah. Just no. It's crazy. Like, go. Spirit, those that's what's efficient. City was, did you ever store stuff with big boxes? If a Best Buy or Walmart closes, Walmart closes because they're built a new super center instead of the outdated previous one.
Because that's why I wear my shoes too, and then
8 seconds.
Yeah, you got time. As long as you don't come back before, that's.
No, I want to, you gotta get another one going, that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Moving on to
Being-
you don't have to
Yeah.
sit, you just stand and then go back.
All right, so we are back in regular session. Can I have a motion?
I will make a motion, we approve the acquisition of easements in the amount of $54,808.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. We have another executive session regarding personnel.
I'll make a motion that we recess into executive session at 8:23 for 15 minutes to discuss city administrator annual performance evaluation pursuant to exemption for non-elected personnel provided by KSA 754319B1, with the open meeting resuming in the city council chamber at 8:38 PM.
Second. Second. All right. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, we are.
Yeah, I already got it. I got
You
it.
already got
Yeah, I
it.
got it. Yeah, thank you, I got it. Appreciate it, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
What?
There's no contact. You start coming to every one of these?
What's important to the council members? Right now, it's like, okay,
That's what I did before I accept any offer every city I've looked at.
that's
I
good
have
advice.
turned down a job because I watched the council meeting and I was like, I didn't
Hey,
say,
doing, Tim?
you
Good.
actually didn't get me 2016, I wish I had.
So who's taking over for Andy on the board?
Tentatively, Dustin Baker's going to.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he just, he and I had coffee a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even have to ask him. He volunteered to step up, so, yeah. Your name came up, and, I was messaging with Sarah, I don't know how you say it, Lucinich. We all have a mutual friend that opened a charcuterie store in Waldo.
Oh, Krista. That
Okay, I don't know Chris.
Sarah, is she with Andy?
She's with Andy.
Yeah, I just met
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, she had, I don't know, somehow she and I were not connected on LinkedIn, and she had sent me a request, so we started messaging back and forth. She said that she had met you, and
Yeah.
how, I think it was how stylishly you were dressed. And then we had a conversation, I was telling her how I have a lot of envy of your wall, your office, the framed maps and the artwork, and
It's
it's
not just one
aspirational
wall.
for me. It's aspirational.
Awesome. Have you, it looked like you've done some stuff here off the.
Well, very little. I mean, I hung up my old airplane prints that I had, and pulled out kind of some of the old tchotchkes and put them in there. I still
Whitney,
got two
whatever
boxes.
happened to you guys, you were gonna dress up Mike's office?
Hey, yeah, we got a lot of money budgeted for it, and then the city hall renovation, he's like, don't even worry about it.
He's got his whole game neat though.
An octopus thing.
I kind of miss the octopus thing.
You didn't see the giant kraken on the wall and whatever it is?
I
He
did
says it's
not.
Game of Thrones, and my head is not. It is not. Camera should know that it's not Game of Thrones.
I've never seen it, so like. Joe, your name came up today at lunch with Trent Dansel.
Oh, no, how's he doing?
He's doing well. He's doing well. Just want to know what's going on over here, and in fact, I owe him some information.
He's a good guy.
To see if we can get Olson in the chamber as a chamber member and an EDC investor. Yeah, real good guy. I got to know him when we were short staffed. You know, he yours truly was the liaison to the leadership oral art class that year. So there's about 6-7 months or so that I kind of shepherded them through the program. I always appreciated his questions.
Have you dealt with Tim McKee much?
Oh, I've dealt with Tim McKee. Yeah.
So
How do you
him and
know
I
Tim?
went to college together.
Oh, no kidding.
He's the best man at my wedding. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we do a bunch of bird hunting
Okay.
together. So.
Was he in a labor?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Head of
Okay.
economic development.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, I know Tim through Chamber and Economic Development, but actually my ex-wife used to work for him.
Oh, really?
So she ran the CVB over there.
Who was that?
Ashley, she remarried, last name now is Jones.
I'm sure I met her at some point. I don't think she told me anything bad about you.
We're good, we're good. We're riding in the car together to take our son over to KU next week. He's gonna follow behind. And
Have you checked out K-State?
I have not.
Is
that where
my
you-
son goes there, he loves it.
Yeah.
But it's
I
funny
bet.
how he, often, within months, he hates KU. Like,
Oh, really?
He never, I mean,
He got indoctrinated.
yeah, it's like I asked him, do they put something in the water over there or something? But,
I'm agnostic on it. My undergrad was from Northern Iowa. Like, you know, KU people don't like me because of, what was that, 2008, the NCAA tournament, and all the three-pointers that Ali Farouk and shit.
Whatever happened to that guy? Whatever happened to him? Did he go? I know he didn't go. I didn't go to the league. Did he go to Europe?
Yeah, I think he played in Europe for a little bit. Did you see the piece maybe a year before last when KU was playing up in Omaha?
Yeah.
And they had hired him to go around
Yeah.
talking to KU fans and you know, and then,
Yeah.
then only a couple people figured out who he was while he was interviewing them.
That guy could not miss that night. I mean, he tied the record for 3-pointers or something like that.
Crazy.
It was just, I mean, everything he put up. You weren't beating him that night, unfortunately.
He's excited that his son's going to KU, so he can take him out to lunch all the time.
oh, yeah.
I don't know how excited your son is.
Yeah, no, he's not. No, I don't know. You know what? He's getting a little more sentimental. He's with me this week, and I texted her last night together. He'll be on next week. I'm getting more hugs. They're lasting a little bit longer. And then we have had this thing. So baseball is always his sport, and we for years have had one of those little squishy stuffed baseballs. And we would throw it across our family room. It was just ginormous, and not too much of it got broken over the years. But I was like, it was just us two guys. It's okay. And he started doing that even the last couple of nights. We went to a movie last night. Got home late. It's like 11 o'clock. I need to get to bed because I get up like 5:15. He wants to talk, so we're gonna talk. And then he starts tossing the ball at me, and then occasionally he whips it at me a little bit.
You just had the one?
Just have the one, yeah. How about yourself?
3, but my daughter, she just graduated from Tulsa University.
Oh, okay.
So she's got her job down in Tulsa, lots my older boy is going, he just started second year at K-State. And then I have a 10-year-old.
Oh my God.
Starting fourth grade, yeah. He's the most fun. I love them when they're little. I mean, they're all
Yeah,
wonderful.
I miss that.
But when they're this age, like this weekend, I'm driving to Grove, Oklahoma, and getting a go-kart that I bought him. And
Oh,
he's
wow.
all excited, yeah, so.
Did you ever get the one with Ron fixed up? Or did you give up on that?
Oh,
Is it on
it's
the go
still,
to work?
that one's a pedal thing. This is
Oh.
like a legit, like, motor and, yeah, so.
Hey, so there was a deal, I think last week on the news about Tulsa. So they had an incentive, they were paying residents $10,000
For what?
to move.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
to become residents of the city.
Wow.
Topeka had something similar.
Huh. Did you think about it?
Well, no, you just said your daughter just graduated from the University of Tulsa.
No, I know. Yeah, that's,
It was
yeah, she's.
I like Tulsa. I was there for about 6 months and I worked in the oil field. I worked for Dallas Home Grid. And so
Huh.
I worked at Lafayette. So I worked there a couple weeks and then they send you up to, they have a school there
Yeah.
teaching about oil fields and all their operations.
Yeah.
So I spent about 6 months there.
We like the city. I mean,
It was
it's,
nice, yeah.
yeah. I could see young people with probably not enough action. But then my daughter's fine with it. She likes it.
Yeah.
If he leaves us for $10,000 to Tulsa, there's something wrong.
Well, no, I just didn't know if the daughter graduated and said, hey, I'm a new resident. I live in Kansas. Sign me up.
Not a bad idea. She'll probably send the contract to me, look it over for her, see if I can find a loophole.
Yeah, you can't, you only need a resident for 10 years.
It's funny with the ball, we do all that, we throw a football. Our upper stair used to be a ballroom, it's like an old, our house was built in 1905, so it's got vaulted ceilings. For a while, my son and I were looking for a basketball goal we're gonna put, because it has a little loft, and we're gonna put a basketball goal up there. My wife was just, she was not happy, we never got it, but it's, yeah, it's fun.
I'd rather play catch up it that way than he said he was a pitcher. And I'm old. And I just don't have the reaction time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I took a fastball kind of in the groin a couple of years ago. That was kind of the end of it. It was like, now he knows if he's going to throw to me, and it still scares the crap out of me, he throws off to my glove hand side. But every once in a while, he's like, oh, I want to work on my slider, or I want to, and there was one the other night we were playing. It's like, man, it went over the top of the glove. I just didn't place the glove right because I wasn't anticipating the movement. And I got thinking, your reaction times are so slow.
Is he playing? Did you say he's playing? Or
No, he
or can you?
yeah, he would never, I couldn't even give him, he didn't want to do club ball over at KU. I thought he would. He didn't play senior year in high school. He finally kind of had, he had, I don't know, maybe I told you already, he got hurt over at KU. He broke the growth plate off his hip. It's called avulsion fracture, where the muscle
Heard about that.
avulses, or the bone, he had about a piece like a silver dollar or so break off from his hip, but the muscle's still attached. So he went down in the heat. The KU trainer was scoring the game. He came down and cut his cleat sock off because they thought they were going to have to life flight him at first because they thought he'd severed an artery.
Wow.
Yeah, it's scary. He laid on the turf at KU for about a half hour and ended up in a wheelchair for a while.
Man.
How did that happen?
Just because he's a teenage boy and they think they're bulletproof. And so they don't stretch like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And so these are becoming like more and more common. And he'd been complaining about it. We didn't think anything of it. A couple days before, oh, my hip's a little sore. Well, he pitches, he's an outfielder. He dived for the ball, okay, he's a little sore, bumps and bruises. Season's long, didn't think anything of it. But out of the whole thing, now he's went through a lot of physical therapy, and that's what he's going to KU for. So, yeah. He makes it all through all 7 years. Yeah.
So getting back to Sarah, so Krista, the gal I
Yeah.
know, wanted me to introduce Sarah to find a buddy. So I'll just, you've already met her, so maybe my job's done.
Oh, there we go. I don't know her that well, you know, so she was one of the diplomats at the OT chamber, and I, you know, always kind of tried to have that separation of church and state, and, but I talked to her, my last event was a chamber coffee that was actually at BHC, and she came up and Tracy, the CEO, had made an announcement in front of everybody. There were 100-some people there. You know, she kind of recognized my last day in front of everybody. And Sarah came over and congratulated me. We had a really nice conversation.
She's a cute gal.
She is. She is.
So was Kevin mentioned he may not be, or maybe that was on the video.
Oh, yeah, I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Use a saddle on your horse?
Make our time.
Oh. Training line changes.
Okay.
Always been very intimidated about doing line changes.
Okay.
You're back.
By all involved.
By everyone.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjust the compensation for our city administrator by 2.4% cost of living and 2.6% merit for a total of 5% salary increase.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tripp,
Yes.
Daniels,
No.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
Advisory reports. Mike?
Nothing this evening, council, thank you.
All right. Patrick?
I just wanted to give a shout out to the Peg Trinity County Attorney. She came and met with me. She's trying to be more collaborative with all of the Johnson County cities legal, so she's made herself available for anything we need. They have several new attorneys, so I thought it was nice for her to do that. We had a really nice meeting. Other than that,
All right.
nothing.
City engineer?
Really just one update. Many of you may have heard last week, Evergy's been out on 95th Street between Kill Creek and Lexington. They've been topping their wood poles. They're taking the transmission lines down, but they're keeping their distribution lines, so they're topping the poles. So to do that, they had to use a crane, and so traffic was blocked for 15 to 20 minutes at a time. They're complete with that work. That nuisance has been completed.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
So there's no more pole removals or anything going to happen out there?
I don't know.
Should just be down to restoration, right?
Yeah.
Assistant City Administrator.
I just have two quick things. One, the property tax relief program, just an update on that. Those have been through the approvals. They are sitting with finance. I sent those off this afternoon. The check should be going out very soon. And then I got a request on, what was that, Tuesday evening from the DeSoto Arts Council to purchase a heart. Mike, if you'd go to that tab, the black heart on there. the DeSoto Arts Council would like to purchase this heart. It's from a local artist in town. Is it Cindy Heller? Is that what?
Heller.
Cindy Heller. Okay, I want to make sure I pronounce that correctly. The reason why this is coming up so quickly is the auctions have already started, and they end on the 23rd. And so they are currently working on where to place the art piece right now. But they have asked me to come to you to ask you to authorize me to spend up to $3,200 from the Public Art Fund to bid on this piece. Just a little bit about it. It's called Expand Your Circle, and it's really about harmony and community coming together. Kind of a cool piece. But that is the request from the Arts Council. If the council wants to, I will start the bidding process on that and come in at hopefully well underneath that 3,200. It kind of depends on the heart. I talked to the Parade of Hearts, and some go for $5,000 or $10,000. Some go for the minimum bid of $2,000. It just depends on what it is. But that's what the Arts Council was comfortable spending for that art piece. Just for a little bit of reference, there's still $17,800 left in the Public Art Fund for the year. So there's a hefty fund balance in there that shouldn't impact it. So with that, if there's a motion, I will start that process.
Do they, go ahead.
Good.
Do they foresee any other expenditures requesting us to purchase existing art exhibits, cost of adding ones, or there's still plenty?
So they are looking right now at leases. So if you remember, they lease art pieces. Those are roughly $2,000 a piece. But as far as I know, they are not planning on commissioning any or purchasing any more pieces of art for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I was just gonna make a motion that we approve the $3,200 to be spent in the effort to win the bid for the Casey Hart by our local artist.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Tripp?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
Hunter Michael?
Yes.
Lane?
Well, may I also say that does it not go to the purchase of this also goes to a charity?
Yes, it does. I don't have that right in front of me. I'm sorry, Danny. It does go. I forget where they go to this year.
And the minimum bids are 2,000.
Yes, the minimum bid is 2,000. Yeah.
Okay, and, all right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You just say yes and we'll be there
Yes.
to vote.
Thank
you, Danny.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Oh,
Council.
that's all right. That's all good information. Appreciate it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, council comments. Kevin, anything for the group tonight?
Yeah, the church I go to, Holy Cross Lutheran Church, partnered up with like 3 other ELCA Lutheran churches and rented out the aquatic center, not last Sunday, the Sunday before, for a youth event. And feedback was that it was really well done. They enjoyed the facility, service was great, got everybody into DeSoto, so good job hosting an event at the aquatic center. That's all I got.
All right, Courtney.
Just welcome back to school, USD 232. So first day of school today, and look forward to a great year for our community at the school.
You got, we get ready for the morning rush on 83rd Street, right, at 7:20 or whatever.
But the bridge is open over K7.
The bridge is open.
Yes. So.
Rob, carry on.
2 things, not for discussion tonight, but probably on the next agenda would be discussion of our city investments and making sure that some of those investments are invested locally, and that our banks have chance to have some of that investment and guaranteeing that they have some. The second is, what is the status of the sewer project along 95th at this point? I know, were they working from Edgerton to Lexington, or Sunflower to
Yeah,
Lexington?
Joe, you might have a better update than I
Yeah,
do.
so they're almost down to Lexington.
Okay.
So they've gone way east of Leslie's property. And we are in the process of approving the right-of-way permit for Atmos to build a bore across the street from the south side to the north side, and then bore west along 95th Street. So Kissick is completely out of that way, so that work should begin and we should be complete here probably within a couple of weeks with utility work.
So Atmos will be starting quickly?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd driven down there and saw that they were almost completely past Jameson's property and moving towards the east, so.
Yeah, so they've been moving really good. And
Yeah,
like I
they
said,
were,
I went out
looked like they were
closely,
making good time, so.
You know, if you had any concerns, call me right down the street, so it's gone well.
Okay. Anything else? Danny?
Two quick things. Thanks to the city mowing crew along Cedar Creek. That does help the line of sight on traffic of people pulling out. They did a good job cleaning that up. And the only other question I had was to Mike on the, has Cameron found anything more about transfer and switch for this fall for our emergency?
Yeah, last time I asked him, it's still scheduled to be here in November, I believe. So wasn't that the last, we always talked about November. Remember, we had an option to spend another 20 grand or something and get it here by August, but we figured it was, yeah, so.
So there's been no talk about delays or anything?
No change in that schedule.
Okay, okay. All right, that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Two things. Zip trip tomorrow, right, downtown. I'll be there at 7 o'clock to give an interview, and I'll stay for the first food drop. I'll get breakfast at 7:30, 7:45, something like that. Is that right?
I don't know if that's for you, but
All
yes. you can.
And then the concert tomorrow night. We're gonna have Liverpool, so Beatles music, and should be a good night, good weather, and a fun day tomorrow. Long day tomorrow.
There's also kayaking at Lexington Lake with Rotary and Caw, Friends of the Caw on Saturday, so a busy weekend.
That's all I got. I'm ready for a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. We're adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Wow.